Anyhow, how long has it been since we saw FTR on Dynamite? Have they not? They've been exiled to Rampage or something, haven't they?
They very proudly, I think, were a part of Collision and maybe some of the creative muscle behind Collision at times. And they've been stuck on Collision, and we've rarely seen them on Dynamite. Maybe I think the build up to Wembley or something, they were there for a little while. And I know I've heard that they've been, and AEW had some stuff on the show, very active by raising money for all the victims in Asheville and all over North Carolina and beyond, I guess. People that were affected by the round of hurricanes that just hit. But other than that, no, we never see them on Dynamite.
Well, at least we saw him again because they had a match with Big Bill and Bryan Keith, and I was scared because they're in the Jericho periphery. But it was
Big
a tag
Bill's
team
good.
match.
Big
But,
Bill is good.
That's the thing. Bryan Keith ain't bad. He's just painfully small. But all of a sudden, shit was getting laid in. Wrestling spots were being done. Tag teams were doing double teams. There was crisp work. There was no gymnastic bullshit. The big 7-foot giant was being kept strong. It was, what the fuck is this in this environment? It was professionalism being exhibited. They kept Big Bill strong, and they had to work to get anything on him, and then they got some heat on Cash. Big Bill missed a charge into the turnbuckle. Cash scampered past Bryan Keith and dove and made a hot tag. And Dax came in and did a comeback. But again, Big Bill is the one, if they need stopping, he stops them. And they did some back and forth. Bill dumped Cash over the top. He took a tremendous bump. And then Bryan Keith hit some kind of fucked up move, and Big Bill hit a boot and a cover, and Cash saved. And then they went to the floor, and they did a beautiful blind tag spot. And where one member of FTR, I can't even remember now which is which, but one member of FTR had the guy that was in the headlock, and he backed up and they blind tagged and shot Bryan Keith off, a double drop down, a leapfrog, and into the shatter machine. 1, 2, 3. That's the first tag team match I've seen in wrestling in weeks. They've had some they've called tag team matches, but they don't do tag team shit. So I liked the match, and then as they're celebrating, music plays, and here come the Outrunners. And they got in the ring and danced and posed and danced and posed, and I don't get it. What are they saying? The Outrunners are allegedly a throwback to an 80s tag team. Is that the gimmick that I've read on the internet that's what they're doing?
I think that's the gimmick. The only problem is, as someone who saw wrestling in the 80s
ever did any of that shit?
Yeah, no one ever behaved like that, ever.
No.
They're like an 80s video game tag team.
Well, whatever it is, I don't get it. I don't get it. But this is, and I'll say what I do get, though, is that because the fans have decided that they don't like what they're being given in large part, they decide they're going to get somebody over just because they want to work with themselves to get them over, to cheer them or to chant for them. They did it with Hook. We had a guy in OVW years ago named Rod Steele. Rip Rogers trained him. Don't hold that against Rip, but he was a big guy, like 6'5", and he had a good body. He was like 250 pounds, but he was already, I think, like 40 years old. This was 20 years ago. And he wasn't going to be a big star, and the WWF wasn't going to sign him, but he was local, and the crowd liked him. I'd put him in a dark match, and his big thing was he would pick a guy up and slam him like 5 times in a row. And the people would go, scoop, slam, scoop, slam. To listen to the reaction, you would think Rod Steele was the goddamn biggest star in wrestling and would sell you out any building you went to. But no, Ben, sometimes the people just decide if we're already here, we're going to like somebody for some weird reason. But if you try to put them in a spot where you actually put them in main events, and maybe that was the thing with Pockets, maybe even the indie fans knew, okay, this guy's a fucking joke, but as a rib, let's cheer for him. And then the bubble brain fucking promoters and other boys thought the guy was really over. You can't put some of these people in the main event or it wears off, because the whole idea of the fans liking doing that is they're cheering for some underneath guy that doesn't look like you ought to be cheering for him. Does that make any sense?
It does. And again, it's the team, it's the act, to use a Dave Meltzer term, that the AEW fans have decided right now that they're going to get behind. I mean, it's another team that maybe once, twice, have they ever been on Dynamite? They're never on Dynamite. So the reaction is from the AEW hardcore fans from seeing them as a cult act on the show that you have to be a diehard fan to watch. And obviously, they were on Collision. That must mean they're FTR guys, and they probably all want to work together.
Well, anyway,